The King's Avatar, Chapter 1209 Who's Under Pressure? Audio source, wusharworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1209, Who's Under Pressure? Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. In the group arena, two of Happy's people were down, and Miracle's second player still had a little under a third of his health left. This was a relatively common situation in a group arena. This around 30% health lead wasn't enough to let Miracle relax or have confidence in their victory. They all couldn't help but look at Happy's players, observing their movements. Happy's third player, Tangro, had already stood up. She turned back to place on her seat the copy of esports time that the Miracle players had harassed them to take. Starting from the first player Wei Chen, all the way to Mo Fan, Happy had already sent out 5 players. What effect did the esports time have on their spirits? To be honest, if they hadn't seen Tangro putting the magazine down just now, Miracle almost forgot about this whole thing. From those 5 players, they really hadn't seen any effect at all. Was it that Fang Rui and Mo Fan's unusual performances today were provoked by the esports time? That possibility would really be a slap in their face. But no matter what, the next player from Happy was the one at the center of the whole controversy, Tangro. There was no way she was entirely unaffected by this. The attacks from Ruin Cheng's article in esports time were extremely aggressive. There's no way a rookie can take that kind of pressure, He Ming said. But she seems very calm, Shen Jian said. She wouldn't be so nervous that she can't even walk. Quote, as He Ming spoke, he followed Tangro with his eyes as she entered the competitor booth. The group arena continued, same map, the characters loaded and entered. Don't wander around inside, let's just meet outside. We're in a hurry. Tangro actually first sent a message in the chat. What's that all about? What, in a hurry? Tangro never has the habit of chatting during a match, does she? Quote, He Ming said with some confusion, only to hear a rattling crash from Happy's player area. Everyone immediately looked over, and saw Fang Rui fallen upon the ground, covered in dust with a depressed expression. This is just too mean, this. Fang Rui was saying. Miracle couldn't hear clearly, but Happy's players were all laughing. Tang rose. In a hurry was of course a very pointed comment. No one thought that she would actually tease Fang Rui in such a way. Fang Rui felt overwhelming pressure. These guys were all in a hurry to deliberately push the responsibility of loss onto him. While Happy was all joyful, Miracle became even more stunned. What was going on? A 30% health lead wasn't considered much, but it couldn't be completely ignored. Happy was clearly in a bad situation right now, but they really seemed to be quite happy. Did they have some ace up their sleeve? In a hurry. In a hurry for what? Miracle's members exchanged looks. No one understood what this was about. Meanwhile, the 2 battle mages on stage had almost arrived at the center of the map. Tangro sent an invitation for a direct fight, but her opponent Jiazing ignored her. In a situation where a player had the health advantage, they generally wouldn't go to fight the opponent directly, they would prefer to play some tricks, and Jiazing followed this normal thought process as well. Tangro's soft mist, like deception last round, first took a circle around the winery. Upon failing to discover Prideful Mage, she had no choice but to enter the winery. A large courtyard with 3 entrances and exits. Jiazing was relatively active, not waiting in one place. The two wandered around, and before long they met. Tangro's soft mist rushed forward without any hesitation. But Jiazing's Prideful Mage decisively retreated, swiftly finding a shadowy position he had passed earlier from which he could launch an ambush. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Jiazing silently counted the rhythm of Soft Mist's approach, his eyes focused on the spot where Soft Mist would appear. Boom! A thunderous sound. The walls of the winery courtyard weren't particularly sturdy. If even a Chi Master's Chi could break it, how could it pose any difficulty for the powerful magic aura of a battle mage? Soft Mist directly blasted a large hole in the wall, and from her pose, it was clear that she wanted to cut off the path and intercept Prideful Mage. A lucky hit, for as soon as she came through, she saw Prideful Mage holding his spear, staring intently at the other opening and sneakily hiding. Happy had so many experts at playing dirty, skilled at waiting, ambushing, and laying traps. Tang Rou, growing up in this sort of team environment, of course, understood these tactics. Seeing Prideful Mage's position, she immediately guessed his intentions. But would Tang Rou care that much? We meet, so let's fight. Soft Mist Dragon breaks the ranks, charged toward Prideful Mage. At this point, Jiazing had seen Soft Mist breaking through the wall, turning, and rushing toward him without hesitation. He immediately controlled Prideful Mage to dodge. If this little shadowy corner were hit by that dragon breaks the ranks, it would likely collapse. Tang Rou's rhythm was of course very fast. Soft Mist's spear twisted and chased Prideful Mage, continuing to batter him. Jiazing wanted to avoid the spear, but he couldn't find the space and could only harden his skin and meet her attacks. The two battle mages were immediately tangled together. Confrontations between players of the same class were both monotonous and fierce, but this time, Jiazing didn't have the chance to feel any boredom, he only felt the ferocity. Because this was too familiar, he needed to make more calculations. He didn't even have time to think about too many problems, as Soft Mist attacked too rapidly, too ferociously. He had no chance to plan anything. He could only input controls non-stop, almost unconsciously, all the way until his Prideful Mage fell. He lost. Jiazing finally regained his wits. The battle just now seemed like an empty fog, as though his brain completely stopped turning, and only his hands kept working. And now, he had already fallen. The word, glory, would not be sent to his screen. Jiazing walked out of the player booth. How long had this battle taken? He felt lost. He only had one feeling: fast, very fast, extremely fast. How did it turn out like this? Shouldn't she be? Only now did Jiazing think about how stress-ridden Tang Rou should be. Her performance should have been subpar. But he hadn't felt that at all. Tang Rou's attack rhythm was still as determined as ever. Jiazing didn't feel it, and the Miracle members off stage didn't see it either. The unfortunate trio exchanged looks. If even Tang Rou hadn't been affected by this whole affair, then there was no point in mentioning any of the other players in Happy. The situation they had been relying on to win this match didn't exist at all. No matter what, let's get these 2 points first. Quote, He Ming said. Shen Jian nodded. He was Miracle's third player for the group arena, the anchor of the team. Be careful. WuxaWorldAudio.com. Quote, He Ming added, unable to relax. Yeah. Shen Jian nodded. He couldn't relax either, and so he didn't have the confidence to say any bold words to settle their hearts. Seeing Jiazing's dazed expression as he came off stage, Shen Jian's heart started beating more rapidly. How was it? Shen Jian told himself that the opponent was a rookie, that there was nothing to panic about, and at the same time, he tried to get some report from Jiazing. Jiazing, who had been beaten so pathetically that his mind was empty, of course had nothing to talk about. His face showed only an expression of loss, and Shen Jian could only carry his various emotions of suspicion and alarm as he went on stage. The battle began. The blank-minded Jia Xing had still made some contribution, knocking away 10% of Soft Mist's health. With that sort of direct fighting earlier, it was inevitable that both sides take some damage. And so Miracle's advantage in the group arena, starting from the 50% that He Ming had, was now whittled down to only 10%. 10%. Staring at this advantage, Shen Jian didn't have much confidence. His striker walked forward, but his heart was jumping. He wasn't a rookie. He had experience in professional battles, but to put all of the pressure of the group arena on him, Shen Jian discovered that he wasn't as strong as he thought he was. The opponent is a rookie. The opponent has already lost 10% health. The opponent is suffering the heavy pressure of public opinion. None of these reasons were enough to boost Shen Jian's confidence. A core player was a position, but it was also a responsibility. Every pro player anticipated having this kind of position, but not everyone could take on this kind of responsibility. Sometimes, it was because they didn't have enough ability, such as in Old Excellent Era, Shen Jian never had enough ability to become the core player. And now, in Miracle, as an experienced player born in Excellent Era, Shen Jian became a core player for this team alongside He Ming and Wang Zhe. But now, with the weight of the group arena upon his shoulders, Shen Jian found that he couldn't calm down. His main thoughts were not about how to achieve victory, but what if he lost? His mental state was a mess, but it wasn't so bad that it affected his basic movement ability. Shen Jian's striker Lethe quickly arrived at the winery at the center of the map. He didn't directly find Tang Rou to battle. After tumbling into the winery courtyard, he found a place to crouch and wait. What is he doing? Off stage, He Ming was scowling. Playing dirty. That wasn't Shen Jian's strong point. Before the match, he had never expressed wanting to use such a playstyle. He Ming was stunned. Wang Zhe didn't understand either. These two teammates had no way of knowing the jittery feelings Shen Jian was experiencing on stage. They could only exchange glances. In the match, Shen Jian sent a message in the chat. "Where are you? Come out and let's decide this. Confuse the enemy, hide your true intentions." This was what Shen Jian was thinking. But for those in this field, this sort of dirty playing was really a bit out of place. 124, 131. Clean and direct, Tang Rou sent out the coordinates of Soft Mist's position, not dirty at all. Then, what would Shen Jian do? The viewers looked over, only to see Shen Jian's striker Lethe sneak out of his corner, looking like he was really about to run over to the position Tang Rou indicated. If that was the case, then what was the point in crouching at the beginning? Those who had some understanding were all confused by Shen Jian's actions. "What's this guy playing at?" Fang Rui asked, mouth agape. After all, this was one of Yi Xiu's former teammates. He's probably playing dirty. Yi Xiu said. "Are you trying to insult me?" Fang Rui was unhappy. Dirty playing wasn't this low level. He refused to recognize this as dirty play. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 12:10. Title is spoiler. Audio source: wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 12:10. Title is spoiler. Translator: Nomyami. Editor: Nomyami. 124, 131. Shen Jian's striker Lethe headed towards the coordinates mentioned by Tang Rou, but he wasn't moving fast or slow. His wading in the mud and water showed the uncertainty in his heart. When he was almost at the destination, he didn't directly show his face. He searched his surroundings as if he were looking for a good spot to set up an ambush. His opponent had justly and honorably declared her position, but he was stealthily creeping forward preparing for an ambush. Most people usually despised this sort of dirtiness. Luckily, this was Team Miracle's home ground, so the boos from the crowd were more subdued. Shen Jian looked around for a while before finally finding a position that he liked and then sprinted towards it. No one. His gaze moved towards the coordinates 124, 131, but there were no signs of soft mist. You liar! Shen Jian was furious. He felt like he had fallen for a trick. This had to be trap. Yes, a trap. As he lashed out in chat, he immediately had Lethe quickly leave. What? You've arrived? Tang Rou replied back in chat. Shen Jian ignored her. Don't even think about using words to distract me, Shen Jian thought, forgetting that he was the one who had started this conversation. You're too slow. If I didn't walk around for a bit, the referee would punish me, Tang Rou said. Shen Jian didn't believe her, but the crowd knew she was telling the truth. After Tang Rou announced her location, Soft Mist stood there waiting the entire time. However, Shen Jian's Lethe kept dilly-dallying. When he had almost reached her location, he started looking for an ambush spot. Tang Rou had waited for quite a while before she had Soft Mist start moving around. I'm on my way back. Just wait there, Tang Rou said. Shen Jian was suddenly in a panic. Lethe spun around, his gaze sweeping over his surroundings, searching for Tang Rou's location. The crowd stared blankly at him. Wasn't this supposed to be a fight between two players? From the looks of it, why did it feel like he was playing hide and seek? Shen Jian didn't just stand there like an honest person. After spinning around twice, he felt like there were too many places for his opponent to come out from. There weren't any ambush spots nearby, which meant that she had run away. The home crowd was Team Miracle's, so they endured it once more. Quite a few people were looking forward to how the show would continue forward though, because the escape route chosen by Shen Jian just happened to be Soft Mist's return route. The crowd had a bird's-eye view of the situation, so they could see it very clearly. The two sides finally met face to face. This surprise encounter once again made Shen Jian panic, but Tang Rou didn't even greet him before attacking. Dragon breaks the ranks. A dragon instantly appeared in front of him. Shen Jian's Lethe moved backwards to dodge and evaded it. His character glanced around. It seemed like he was searching for an escape route. The match has already reached this point, and you're still thinking about running away? How is he planning on playing this match? This time, the crowd had no answer and boos gradually started coming out. It wasn't that those who played dirty couldn't accept running away, but those who played dirty weren't this gutless in a direct confrontation either. Running away need to have a clear tactical intent, but Shen Jian. The crowd couldn't see even a glimpse of a plan. From the start, he had appeared overcautious the entire time. He was now faced with his opponent's spear, yet he was still like this. Can he win with this sort of attitude? Bang! A falling flower palm pushed forward. Shen Jian wasn't able to react in time, and Lethe shot backwards. However, Lethe was surrounded by walls on three sides. Lethe slammed into a wall and then rebounded back. Soft Mist's furious dragon strikes the heart welcomed him and pinned him back to the wall. What is he doing? The crowd wasn't just booing. Angry curses were starting to be thrown out. Even Himing and Wang Zhe, Shen Jian's former teammates, his two pals after coming to Team Miracle, were also having trouble watching. What's wrong with him? Quote, Himing asked Wang Zhe. Who could Wang Zhe ask? It looked like Shen Jian was the player being pointed at by everyone, fearful and nervous from the pressure. As for Tang Rou's Soft Mist, her temperament, playstyle, and drive were no different than before. Shen Jian's gaze shifted towards Happy's player area. An esports time was quietly sitting where Tang Rou had been sitting at before. What's going on? Did I give her the wrong one? He Ming didn't dare to believe it. The other players on Happy might not be affected, but he had trouble believing that a rookie like Tang Rou would feel nothing from the pressure of the public. Little Tang is playing quite relaxed, Yishu commented on Happy's side. Would Tang Rou be affected by this pressure? It wasn't just Team Miracle who cared, Happy cared even more. And from this match, it couldn't be said that Tang Rou was completely unaffected because there truly had been some changes. For example, in the dialogue in this match, the previous Tang Rou wouldn't have bothered with topics unrelated to the match. But now, she could mischievously tease Fang Rui and chat a few words with Shen Jian. This was a change in attitude. She wasn't impatient to prove the public opinion wrong, but rather play her in a more relaxed way. With her personality, she might not be able to excite her full potential, but controlling and adjusting her emotions purposefully was a more mature transformation. Shen Jian's cowardice put him in a stifled position. His 10% health instantly disappeared and then he started falling behind, losing to panic. Under this vicious cycle, he suffered a crushing defeat to Tang Rou. "What were you doing?" Quote, He Ming ruthlessly berated Shen Jian. It wasn't like they couldn't afford losing, but in the end, Shen Jian had only been able to take away 20% of Tang Rou's health. This sort of trash performance was practically the same as giving away the point. He Ming couldn't understand what had happened to Shen Jian. Why did his playing suddenly take a dive? Their Team Miracle had prepared amply for this match, and seeing that their opponents were at the sharp end of the public stick, their mentality going into the match had been quite solid. WuxaWorldAudio.com. The rookies that joined the alliance along with Team Miracle might have lost, but they performed very well. On the other hand, it was Shen Jian, their anchor for the group arena, that had lost in such an embarrassing manner. Shen Jian didn't know how to explain himself. He had been given such a heavy responsibility, but it turned out that he had no confidence with this heavy responsibility. It was truly very shameful. In Team Miracle, he had acted quite arrogant as a capable senior. He didn't want his lofty image to crumble this easily. "We can't lose this team competition. We can't be shaven clean by them, can we?" Quote, He Ming saw that Shen Jian hadn't responded. He didn't say anything more and started encouraging the team for the following team competition. However, they had been quite confident about this match, but in the group arena and individual competition, Happy annihilated their forces. The psychological advantage held previously by Team Miracle had disappeared long ago. In particular, each of them hiding a copy of the esports time and then giving the copy to their opponents wasn't exactly a good-looking move. Yet their method was completely ineffective and might end up being laughed at later. In this round, everyone in Team Miracle felt like they were clowns. Happy's team strength is much worse than their individual strength. Their teamwork isn't good. This is our chance. Quote, He Ming said. However, everyone already knew this. He Ming repeating it didn't do anything. He Ming didn't know what to do with their down spirits. In reality, his confidence had been killed too. It was just that he was the team captain, so he kept reminding himself not to show weakness. What's there to be afraid of? At worst, we lose. We're just a new team with new players. Go in with a learning attitude. Quote, At this moment, the punk Guo Xiao jumped out and yelled. He was still bursting with life, filled with hope towards this following team competition. He actually dared to say something like, "At worst, we lose." Perhaps no team captain would ever say these words, but that was the truth, and it actually eased the players up quite a bit. Even Shen Jian seemed to have relaxed. He didn't belong to the new players category. We can do this. Guo Xiao might as well just jump into the crowd and start cheering for his teammates. He attracted quite the attention from the crowd. The team competition began shortly afterwards. Guo Xiao's words had been quite effective. With the attitude of, "At worst, we lose," Team Miracle's players let loose. But the problem was that once they let loose, they couldn't keep it together. In the end, they were a new team too. They had problems with teamwork because of their lack of experience. He Ming, Shen Jian, and Wang Zhe were experienced players, but they weren't experienced as core players. Their ability to keep things together clearly couldn't compare to Yi Xiu, Su Mucheng, and Fang Rui, who had all once been top core players in their teams. Their home map advantage wasn't able to help them. In the end, Team Happy won the team competition, sweeping Team Miracle 10-0. The other matches taking place that same day ended in succession. In the 9th round, an extremely unusual scene appeared. There were unexpectedly 5 perfect wins this round, and all of them were away game victories. Team Happy vs Team Miracle, 10-0. Team Blue Rain vs Team Conquering Clouds, 10-0. Team Tyranny vs Team Lightly, 10-0. Team Samsara vs Team Bright Green, 10-0. Team Tiny Herb vs Team Seaside, 10-0. Apart from Team Happy and Team Miracle, the other 4 matches were all strong versus weak team matchups. However, the weak teams had the home game advantage. Not being able to win even a single point was very surprising. The public opinion believed that as the league developed, the disparity between the top teams and weak teams was growing larger and larger. The powerhouses prospered in the current scene, receiving more resources than weak teams and then using these greater resources to further strengthen their team. Under this cycle, the strong teams became stronger, while the weak teams became weaker. The new teams without any strong financial backer seemed to have difficulty breaking through these strong teams. Team Heavenly Swords had initially been looked at highly because of their strong backing, but who would have thought that their boss would be personally taking up the banner? Their expectations for Team Heavenly Swords would have to wait until after this boss lost his interest in playing. End chapter.
The King's Avatar, Chapter 12-11 Strong Performances, Audio Source, WuXiaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 12-11, Strong Performances. Translator, Gnome Yummy. Editor, Gnome Yummy. Apart from the 5 perfect 10-0 wins, the other matches in Round 9 were very orderly, 3-8 losses and 2-7-3 wins. The 3-8 losses were the home team's Heavenly Swords, Parade, and Radiant, losing to the visiting teams Misty Rain, Void, and 100 Blossoms respectively. As for the 2-7-3 wins, 301 and Royal Style took down Wind Howl and Thunderclap, relying on their home field advantage. In the end, the weaker teams weren't able to pull off any upsets in Round 9. However, 301 and Royal Style, the 2 mid-tier teams that were on the edge of making it into the playoffs last season, utilized their home field advantage to beat Wind Howl and Thunderclap, rather surprising victories. After Round 8, Thunderclap had been in second place, but their lead over the lower-ranked teams hadn't been that high. With this loss, they immediately slid down to 4th place, while Blue Rain and Tiny Herb with 69 points and 66 points took 2nd and 3rd. Samsara's consistency and dominance once again placed them in their own separate tier. Their point total was 77, 8 points ahead of the second-place team. After Thunderclap was Misty Rain in 5th with 59 points, Tyranny in 6th with 57 points, Wind Howl in 7th with 57 points, and then 100 Blossoms in 8th. After Happy took a huge win over 100 Blossoms, beating them 9-1, 100 Blossoms adjusted rapidly. After 2 rounds, they were back on their feet, quickly making their way back to the playoff zone. After 100 Blossoms was Void, 301, and Royal Style placed outside of the playoff zone. With Happy winning this round 10-0, they moved up one spot from 14th to 13th, but the distance between Happy and the 8th place 100 Blossoms was 14 points. The teams in the relegation zone were Seaside and Bright Green. After round 7, these two teams were locked into last and second to last. The gap between these two teams and the teams AEAD of them were pulling farther and farther apart. It looked like there wouldn't be any suspense as for who would be relegated this season. The post-match reports for round 9 didn't focus on a single team or person but rather how weirdly orderly the point distribution was. The media really wanted to about the dominance of powerhouses because of the several 10-0s. But the problem was that of these 5 10-0s, one of them just had to be Happy, a truly irksome presence. Happy was without a doubt unrelated to this topic, but they just had to show up at this moment. The issue of dealing with Happy gave the media huge headaches. In the end, it was still eSports home with the talent. Samsara, Tiny Herb, Blue Rain, and Tyranny were used to describe the untouchable dominance of the powerhouses. On the other hand, Happy was singled out as the representative team of wildly inconsistent and incomprehensible team. They could crush 100 Blossoms 9-1, but also lose 3-7 to Radiant and Parade. Yet after those losses, they could achieve perfect 10-0 wins over Heavenly Swords and Miracle. Figure out a team's strength from their win records. In Happy's case, it seemed extremely unreliable. In these 9 rounds, Samsara had obtained the most 10-0s with 3 perfect wins. Next, with 2 perfect wins, was Tiny Herb and then Happy. But Happy was also among the teams who were annihilated 0-10. It was as though Happy just had to stick their nose in everything. The eSports home concluded with a serious reminder to all teams in the alliance: be wary of Happy. This sort of spotlight onto them was quickly met with backlash by people such as the eSports Times' Ruan Cheng. The eSports Time was bi-weekly, so he had no way of immediately writing an article through the eSports Time and could only use his personal blog to express his opinions. Tang Ru breaking her promise wasn't going to be forgiven so easily by him, but repeating the same thing again and again would tire out the readers. In fact, it might help her through reverse psychology. Ruan Cheng was a master though and had a subtle grasp of the pace. He wouldn't constantly stick in reminders, but he would never forget to raise the topic seemingly by accident at the appropriate time to avoid readers from forgetting about it. Because of Tang Ru, Ruan Cheng had turned into a through-and-through Happy hater. However, he was still a public figure and had to care about his reputation, so even if he had to paint Happy black, he had to back it up with logic, feigning reason and hiding his individual bias. As a result, under Ruan Cheng's artful writing, Happy became a shit stick that harmed others without benefiting themselves, supported clearly and logically. Why did his writing seem so reasonable? Because what Ruan Cheng wrote was really just a reiteration of the eSports home's negative opinions of Happy in an uglier way. However, due to the influence of his writing style and the push from other journalists who were also unhappy with Tang Ru, Happy was generally viewed in a more negative light. 2 10-0s, 1 Heavenly Swords and 1 Miracle. Both these teams had certain ties with Happy. Snatching all 10 points from them could also be considered quite vicious and merciless of Happy. Some of the sillier comments even took those words, vicious and merciless, to describe Happy, seeming to have forgotten that any team wanted to win as many points as possible in a competition. But despite these negative comments, Happy's pace became steadier and steadier. In their 10th round home game versus Royal Style, a 9-1 victory. In their 11th round away game versus Seaside, Boundless Sea returned for the first time to his old home. The Seaside fans familiar with Boundless Sea saw their team's former symbol walk onto a path never to return under Happy's Fang Rui. Amidst the unrelenting boos from the crowd, Happy wasn't polite and sent away Seaside 10-0. 2 huge victories in 2 rounds. Happy had 19 points, rising up 2 places on the rankings, currently at 11th place. Their distance to the playoff zone had shrunk to 10 points. Right now, Team Void was 8th. At the end of round 9, the 5th place Team Misty Rain performed poorly in round 10 and round 11, falling out of the playoff zone at 10th place with 65 points. Even Team 301 was AEAD of them. 100 Blossoms continued to perform consistently, winning 7-3 against the away team Blue Rain. Yu Feng's departure from Blue Rain had been quite controversial. Many fans thought he was being greedy. He had been one of the 3 core players of Team Blue Rain. Wanting an even higher position than that was endless greed. This time, Yu Feng directly confronted Team Blue Rain, proving that he had the qualifications for an even higher position. Although his Berserker lost to Huang Shaoxin's Blade Master in the final round of the group arena, 100 Blossoms had opened poorly. By the time Yu Feng had to face Huang Shaoxin, he was only at 30% health. But in the following team competition, Yu Feng became the most eye-catching player. His display of power pierced through the tactical net zone by Team Blue Rain. In the end, 100 Blossoms won the team competition. WuxiaWorldAudio.com. Having 71 points, they now had 71 points, rushing AEAD to 6th place on the rankings, leading Tyranny by 1 point. Blue Rain wasn't the only powerhouse that lost in the 11th round. Tyranny lost their away game to Thunderclap 3-7, putting them at 7th place with 70 points. Thunderclap was 3rd, continuing on their radiant path this season. Apart from them, Tiny Herb lost to Void 2-8. Through this victory, Void broke into the playoff zone, while Tiny Herb was surpassed by Thunderclap, placing Tiny Herb at 4th. In 5th place, Team Wind Howl won their away game 8-2 against Team Misty Rain, sending Team Misty Rain out of the playoff zone. As for those outside of the playoff zone, Bright Green and Seaside were stuck in the relegation zone. Lightly, Miracle, Conquering Clouds, and the other low-tier teams had clearly become targets to snatch points from. The weak teams were of no use to be looked at. Thus, the ups and downs of the rankings depended on the confrontations between the strong teams. Samsara led in 1st place with 94 points, 13 more points than Blue Rain. Their position this season was practically untouchable. Thunderclap had originally been this season's biggest surprise. After 10 rounds, Thunderclap was still stuck in the second echelon teams outside of Samsara, running neck and neck with Tiny Herb and Blue Rain. Team Wind Howl's momentum this season had been astonishing. But from their performance these 11 rounds, they were like loud thunder but small raindrops. Even though they weren't like Happy, who would sweep a team and then get swept, their inconsistency was a reality. After 100 Blossom's first 4 rounds, they became more and more stable, beating Blue Rain this round. Yu Feng had proven himself. 100 Blossoms also showed that they had the ability to beat a top team. Afterwards was Tyranny. No one had any hope for them dominating like last season. Tyranny was determined to keep rotating in their subs to the extent that it was rare for all 4 Heavenly Kings to be on stage at the same time. Their win record was also fleeting. When they were facing weak teams, they weren't weak, but facing strong teams, they weren't too strong either. Many were disappointed in them, feeling helpless about the issues of age. Void relied on their good performances these 2 rounds to return back to the playoff zone. Their victory over Tiny Herb had boosted their morale considerably. The air around them was very different from before in their post-match conference. The teams 10 points away from qualifying for playoffs were 301, Misty Rain, and Happy. Team 301 was always like this, pacing back and forth in and out of the playoff zone. When the end of the season came, if their luck was good, they would make it to playoffs. If their luck was bad, they wouldn't. As for Misty Rain and Happy, they would be fighting each other in round 12. This match would determine who would be closer to the playoffs. From the current trend, Misty Rain had performed poorly 2 rounds in a row, losing to 301 and Wind Howl. As for Happy, after losing to Tiny Herb in round 8 and Tang Ru refused to keep her promise, Happy started taking points like crazy. Over the 9th, 10th, and 11th round, Happy had unexpectedly took 29 points in total, even beating Samsara in terms of points, who had obtained 27 points in these 3 rounds. Happy had matched with Miracle and Seaside, who weren't strong teams, but Royal Style was a mid-tier team with an all-star watching over. Royal Style even upset the Roaring Thunderclap 7-3. But facing Happy, Royal Style was swept 9-1. Happy is coming. The esports home highlighted Happy's recent momentum. As for people like Ruan Cheng, who hated Happy, there was not much they could say. Happy's win after win was slap after slap to their faces. They were waiting for Happy to capsize. That way they would wantonly throw stones at them while they were down. This upcoming match was looking to be a good opportunity. In round 12, Happy would be facing Misty Rain, a team with the strength to make it to playoffs. If Happy couldn't pass this obstacle, let alone losing points to their direct competitor, Ruan Cheng's group could directly say that Happy were just paper tigers that could only topple pushovers. End chapter.